Hello everyone and welcome to Spicy Soup, your channel for sociology and related topics. My name is Chad Seeger, and today we're going to be discussing gender, the concept that seems to trigger derision, anger, hatred, while at the same time causing no physical harm to anybody. How did we get here? Misinformation and hysteria, both of which will be corrected in this episode. Before we get started, I wanted to give you a little tease. Right now in the United States of America, there is an accepted third gender, and in some other parts of the world as well. But even the most conservative households in America, there is an accepted third gender. Do you know what it is? If not, keep your ears open. Maybe it'll come to you before the reveal. Let me get right to the elephant in the room. Someone recently said, as of today, it'll henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. Unfortunately, this sentence doesn't even make semantic sense. It's like saying, I had blue for breakfast. Or say, it's our position that now there will only be two races. I'm going to give the speaker of that sentence the benefit of the doubt and assume that the meaning of gender was unknown to them. But it may be unknown to you as well. I was surprised when I found out what it meant. But sociology has a way of clearing things up. So here we go. Yes, in fact, gender is a social construct just like race. So imagine if I said going forward, there was only going to be two races. You'd probably look at me pretty funny. Before we get to explaining what gender actually is, we should probably start with what it's not. It is not sex. Sex is a biological distinction that has less to do with sociology than gender does. So let's leave sex to the biologists. Gender, however, is different. For a quick but incomplete definition, gender is a social construct that organizes identities, traits, behaviors, and expectations in relation to femininity, masculinity, and sex. There's a lot to unpack there, but don't be intimidated. It actually will start to make sense once you think about it. Let's do some quick history. The way we now use the word gender is actually pretty modern, but what it's attempting to describe is not. Humans are varied, and as we look back on history, we can see our ancestors attempting to explain the variation that they witnessed. Different cultures around the world and at different points of time have developed language to help describe people who challenge a direct correlation between sex, social roles, behavior, and what we could call gender presentation. They didn't call it gender, and they didn't necessarily understand it in the same way we do, but they noticed the variation that nature kept producing. We needed a word to fill the need that biological sex couldn't provide. That word became gender. Let's take a look at another way gender expresses itself, and that's through gender roles. Gender roles are yet another social construct, but taking a look at a few and breaking them down, you can start to see the social aspect of gender itself. Consider cooking, the gender roles of cooking. Some societies have very hard and fast rules on who cooks what and when. Is baking involved? Is it inside, outside? Is there fire? What kind of kitchen? And some societies don't put much importance on cooking and gender at all. Now, which society is the correct way of doing things? We also see gender role variation across the world in a number of different ways, including construction, holding hands, who wears tights and/or wigs, dressing up, wearing makeup. So if societies are filled with variation, why would it be surprising that humanity is also filled with variation? Speaking of variation, human beings can jump from 0 inches all the way over 8 feet, and everything in between. One human being learned over 42 languages, while many know 0. And somewhere in humanity, you'll find people that at pretty much every other number. How kind is someone? How funny is someone? How perceptive is someone? These questions don't have definitive answers, and yet we speak about people normally as if they have some amount. Switching to gender, how masculine is someone? How feminine is someone? Well, A, those words aren't super well defined to begin with, and B, there's tremendous variation, even with regards to sex. Calling gender a spectrum is a step towards understanding, but it's also inaccurate. There are multiple dimensions how a person interprets and projects their own gender identity. Even the most masculine man on earth may cry at the end of Marley and Me, and every once in a while get an idea to bake some muffins. Here's another spectrum related to gender that expresses variation. Let's call this one gender importance. For some people, their individual gender is not really that important to them. They don't think about it very much. For other people, their gender is extremely important in who they are, for their identity. And you're going to find somebody everywhere in between. The question now becomes which of these people are correct in how important their gender is to them, and how they choose to display it. Now, none of this means that sex isn't real, that men and women don't exist. or that every difference between them was invented by society. It means something much simpler. Humans vary. One way we vary is how we relate to sex and the expectations society is built around that. So in reality, gender is just one way of expressing human variation. Hopefully you can now see how gender is a fluid social construct that changes across societies, reflecting the inherent variation in humanity. Remember the question at the start of the episode? If you answered tomboy, then you got the answer I was looking for. Now what's a tomboy? It's basically a young girl who acts like a boy. Western societies have recognized this variation in gender expression for so long that it gave it its own name, and no one finds it particularly shocking. Thank you everyone for watching this episode of Spicy Soup. Leave a comment if you'd agree, disagree, would like to suggest future topics, or simply say hello. Like and subscribe if you like what you saw. My name is Chad Seeger, and I'll see you on the next episode of Spicy Soup.